right, welcome back for another episode of Chasing Ghosts. This is the video series where I talk about those hard to find, those impossible to find comics, those really, really tough books that you just don't see up on the wall when you go to your shop every Wednesday. You got to do some digging, some legwork, and basically get lucky in a lot of cases to find some of these really, really tough books and variants. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And honestly, I wasn't expecting to be doing another one of these so soon. I told you before, I'm probably going to do these maybe once a month here or there, but given the circumstances with a new movie coming out this week, I was inspired with a list of books and decided, you know what, let me just roll with it and just do this anyway. So hopefully you're on board for that. Now, if you want to see the topic that I picked out, just hang up for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. All right, so I mentioned I was inspired by a topic, a movie coming out this week. It's actually coming out tomorrow, for that matter, and that is it's basically a remake of the Broadway show Wicked. But, so we got some Wizard of Oz action going in there. I thought it would be interesting because there are actually plenty of Oz-related comic books that have been released throughout the years. There's a bunch of stuff. There was a prequel series out of IDW that had some 1 in 10s that were kind of interesting, but I kind of focused myself more towards the more popular Scotty Young involved Marvel books. So that's what we're going to get into here on today's show. So hopefully you're on board for that as we go through with our, kind of shorter format version of this show. So let's see what we're getting brought to us for our first book. Okay, so our first book on tap is an incentive, and it is from Marvel, as I mentioned. This is Osma of Oz #1. This was, I think, the third book in the Frank Baum series. I don't remember. Don't check me on my Oz knowledge. Just knowing that this was based off of one of the sequel novels to Wizard of Oz that this series of comics was done. Now, this particular cover is a variant cover. This is the writer Eric Schanauer, if I'm saying his name right. November 2010. This is his cover. He wrote, I believe, all of these Oz-related books that came out of Marvel. There were multiple series. This is like the 4th or 5th at this point. I didn't do the original ones. Like I said, this is coming through a little bit later in 2010. But this particular book, now, these numbers are not concrete and are not set in stone, so please don't quote me on them. They're the best info that we have. But this is a 1 in 25 incentive on a book that had an estimated print run of about 13,000 based off of Comicron's numbers. Again, best info we have available. So if you do that ratio math of taking the 13 divided by 25, that's where the estimated incentive 528 number comes from. That's not an accurate number. I know it's not an accurate number. It's just a guesstimate, if you want to use that parlance. But it is the best we got. And it's just to give you an idea, a sense of how many could be potentially out there when you're going and searching the market. That's all. Because, again, how they actually print them, it's not an exact science like this, nor is the information 100% accurate that we have available to us. So we will never know the exact number. But, again, for our purposes here, it's a broad line guess that I find helpful. With that, we can look in the CGC census to see how many copies of this particular book have been graded. And so far, this particular variant has all of 3 copies in the census. That's right, 3 9.8s, and that's it. So, not a lot out there. Not a lot graded. But we'll see what we have on the market. So far, the last 3 months, I didn't actually find any sales, so I don't know what the market is currently willing to pay for this book because none sold the last 3 months. However, when I went searching to go buy one, I did manage to find a pair of options. So I did find this 1 in 25, basically right around ratio. Copy available for 21 and change, and another one for $20.99. So just under that $25 ratio mark as far as options go. So with that said, there were a pair out there. So by our rules, it's got to be one or none to be considered a ghost that we're going to continue to chase. So in this case, we don't need to chase this one, as this one is attainable with 2 copies. Granted, it's still very hard to find, and there's only 2 out there on the market, but still, we have to have rules, and those are our rules. So that's our call for Osma of Oz, number 1, the 1 in 25. Now, before we get on to our next book, I just want to remind those of you out there who have yet to try Whatnot, now's your chance. Use my link below. Get yourselves a free $15 to spend on whatever you want with whomever you want. No strings attached. You get to try out the application. You get a free $15 for your first purchase. You'll help out the channel. You get yourself something nice, so you really got nothing to lose. Now, with that out of the way, let's get on to our second option here. Okay, so what does Pinky have on board for us today? Well, here we have the next series in the Oz, I guess, epic or continuation. I don't know what everyone want to call it. But in the library of the Oz comic books out of Marvel, we're going to the next one. And the next one is Dorothy and the Wizard in Oz. This is, again, a new number 1 written by Shanauer. And this particular cover, however, is a Nick Bradshaw. And this came out in September of the next year in 2011. Pretty cool cover. I like that he's able to pull off this kind of like Disney animation style on this cover. Like, it does have that kind of cartoonish quality that I appreciate personally. But for this particular book, this one is a 1 in 20 incentive. And with the numbers we have available to us, the estimated print one was only just over 10K in this case. But with it being a 1 in 20, our estimated incentive number would still be right around 532. So again, not set in stone, but gives us broad line, baseline kind of number that we can kind of look towards. Then when we look in the actual CGC census for this particular book, we can see that, well, there's still not a lot. There are only a pair of 9.6s, actually, for this one. Not even a 9.8. So no 9.8s in the census, only 2 9.6s, 1 blue label, 1 signature series, and that's all we got graded for this pretty fun and pretty cool looking Bradshaw cover. Again, it's outside of his normal style, because his normal style is almost Art Adams-esque. And like I said, this one is more Disney animation, like, more modern Disney animation, not old school, but again, I kind of like it. With that said, much like our last book, none have sold in the last 3 months for this particular book. Again, it's just not that popular of a series. It has a very niche audience that was interested in these. There's a lot of trade paperback sales. There's a lot of collected editions, and that's usually what the Wizard of Oz folks who are fans of that go and pick up. They're not going back for all of these hard-to-find floppies and variant covers. So it's just one of those things. But I found this topic interesting, and tying it to the movie coming out with Wicked, I said, you know what? Let's take a look at some of these, and let's give these books kind of a spotlight, considering the timing of the movie. So I thought it was kind of fun. Hopefully you think this is interesting. With that said, not only were there none sold in the last 3 months, I couldn't find a copy to purchase of this book. And like I said, I kind of like this one. If this one was right around 20 bucks like the last one, I might have grabbed one. But unfortunately, none out there for me to go and buy. But that's cool. It's fine. I don't know much about the series or what's inside the storyline of this, the guts of this book. Admittedly, I am not that big of a Wizard of Oz fan, so I don't know all the subsequent lore and storylines that ran through from novels, etc. But it's out there. Maybe one of these days I'll flip through them and see what's on the inside of these things. But for our purposes here, for this cover, there is none. So with that said, this is one we're still going to have to chase, as this one got away. This one got away. There's none out there for any of us to go and buy at the moment. We do this in a couple of months. Market could be different. There could be copies out there. But for now, when I'm doing this today, in preparation for tomorrow's release of Wicked, nothing available. So that's our call for Dorothy and the Wizard in Oz, number 1. Now, I think we have Inky up next. I think it's Inky, the blue one. I always forget their names. But Inky, what do you got for us today? You have another installment, another new mini-series, the next one in the line. This is Road to Oz, number 1. And this is another Eric Shanauer cover, the writer, getting to do his thing here. You can see pretty decent artist, especially in this kind of cartoony animation style. But this one, the next year, September 2012, so exactly a year later from the last release. This book is only a 1 in 15 incentive. This was the highest ratio incentive for this book. This also, again, these books, many of them, they have Scotty Young covers. There are even some Scotty Young variant covers that are like open order variants. A lot of fun and cool stuff out there. Really cool covers on those Scotty Youngs. But we're looking here at the variants, the incentive variants. So with that said, this book had an estimated print run of over 12,000. So at a 1 in 15, there's going to be a bit more. And this one actually could have an estimated number of about 841. Now, just because there's potentially 841 copies out there doesn't mean that there are. And when I went looking in the census to see how many graded copies of this book there were, I actually came up empty. So as far as I can tell, nobody's actually graded this book. Not only that, no one has purchased this book within the last 3 months. So we got that going against us. And finally, when I went to look to see what's available, to see whether this was a ghost to continue to chase, or if this is an attainable, hard-to-find book, well, I once again didn't find any on the market. So this one, like the last book, is another ghost that's out there for us to chase, because there were none available. Now, that's the call on Road to Oz #1. This miniseries was shorter, I think, than the last. This one only ran 6 issues, where some of the other ones went up to like 8 or 7, I believe, or all over the place. But before we get to our last book, I've got one little tidbit I want to drop for all of you, because sometimes you got to go and buy stuff you may not want to. We all need them. We need bags. We need boards. We need short boxes or long boxes. We need top loaders. We might want those graded boxes. We might want all kinds of different things to help protect our collectibles. And since you got to do it anyway, you might as well save some money while you're at it. Use my link, use my code RENA10 to save 10% off your BCW order, because again, this is a lot of stuff you're going to be buying anyway, so you might as well save some money while you do it. I personally use BCW for most of my stuff just because I know the brand, I know what I'm getting, I'm comfortable with it, and I like it. It protects the books, it gives everything a uniform look for me. And if you were like me and you buy from here too, use the code, save some money, because why not save money? So with that said, we've got one more book, and this one's coming to us from Clyde. I do remember the orange one's Clyde. So Clyde's got a book for us, and this is our final book of the day, and this is another, and this was, I believe, the final volume of Oz books out of Marvel. This is the Emerald City of Oz, #1. So another #1. For most of these series, especially the ones here at the end, only issue 1 had incentive variants. So they were not variants throughout. So the rest of the series, it's just regular one cover for issue 2, one cover issue 3, yada, yada, yada. And again, a lot of cool Scotty Youngs in there. But this time, we have a pretty awesome Chris Bacalo on this. And this one came out in July of 2013. So the next year, but a little bit sooner in the year, because like I said, the other series only ran 6 issues. So it was a little bit shorter. So this one came out a little bit quicker, hot on its heels, in the summer of 2013. Now, Chris Bacalo did this, and this is actually a 1 in 50 incentive. Yes, that's right, a 1 in 50. There are other variants. I thought about including those too, but I just figured we'd stick to my guns and just go with the 1. And here we go. We're going with the 1 in 50 with an estimated print run over 13,000. This could potentially mean there are only 274 of these out there. Again, it's an estimate. It's not, don't take it as gospel. It's just something to give us an idea of what could be out there. And with that number and with those low numbers, 1 in 50, just think in practical terms, how many shops are actually ordering 50 copies of the Emerald City of Oz after that? The number's 13,000. How many of those said, hey, I need at least 50? Probably not that many. With that said, let's look in the census for this guy. And this census actually has a few more than the last. Still 5. So we've had a book that had 3, 2, none, and now 5 copies in the census. And 4 of them are 9/8, and we've got 1 9/6, all blue labels, and that is it, folks. That's all that's in there in the census for this Emerald City of Oz book. Now, in addition to that, we've only got none sold. So like the last few books, actually all of these, none of these have had any sales the last 3 months. Now that I think about it, going back to even our first book, no sales. So we don't know what the current market is on this. But when looking to see if there were any available, I did manage to find one. So I did find one copy out there. Granted, it was that 9.6. I found the 9.6 and it's available for 300 bucks. So it's not cheap. It ain't easy to find, but I did find one. But considering I still found one, it still qualifies it for our purposes here, and it is still another ghost for us to chase. So with that said, another tough book out there. And again, I really like this cover. I wouldn't mind grabbing one of these for myself because, again, I like Chris Bacalo. I like this style, and it just looks cool. So with that, those were my 4 options for us today on Chasing Ghosts. Let's do the quick recap rundown and see what we have to work with here. And based off of what's available, we've got books out there with no copies, and then 1 copy available. So all 3 of these would fit our qualifications for being ghosts this week. So that's the recap. That's what we got. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully you guys are looking forward to the Wicked movie. From what I see, it's getting very high ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not really for me. I may or may not go with the family this weekend, depending on how things go. It might just be my wife and son who go, because my son does want to see it. He likes the musical, though. He's into that kind of thing. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll go and check it out. But point being, that's all I got for you. So, until next time, I'll see you all later with some more content. All right? Later.